See, basically, we are going to do Indian society. Indian society, and after your Indian society, as part of your GS1, we'll do your GS2 aspect of it, that is your social justice. Now, when you look at your GS1 and GS2 syllabus of Indian society and social justice, now basically in your GS1, you need to understand the ins and outs of your Indian society, or basically what is the composition of your Indian society, what is the diversity aspect or diversity dividend with respect to Indian society, and how this diversity dividend is going to manifest itself in different forms. One, it is with respect to regionalism. Two, with respect to secularism. Three, with respect to communalism. And four, the corresponding impact with respect to globalization. So when you understand the diversity of Indian society in terms of caste, in terms of race, in terms of language, in terms of geography, or in terms of different religion or different kinds of ethnic groups, you would see that the interaction between all of this that are part of your Indian societal structure, you would see that they would result in one of these phenomena. Because your regionalism is basically a conflict between two ethnic groups, one thing, or it might be conflict between two different regions of different language or linguistic diversity. Now, when you talk about your secularism, basically it deals with your religious diversity. Yes. And when you talk about communalism also, basically your communalism is a counter narrative for your secularism, or it is a blockade for your secularism. Now, in this context, what will we be doing in next 4 days? I think around 30-32 hours of Indian society. We'll basically look at the structure of Indian society in detail. And when you talk about the structure of Indian society in detail, the one thing you're supposed to understand is caste. Extremely important section of the structure of Indian society, because when you look at caste, I think every alternate year there is a question on caste. Not only in your anthropology or your GS1, there is an impact on caste. I think this year there was a question on caste and the caste dynamics and the impact of urbanization on the caste dynamics. Okay. So one thing you are supposed to understand, what is caste and what are the inter-caste relations that are persisting, how are they changing with respect to one caste group to the other caste group. Now, the second aspect that you are supposed to look into the structure is the tribe as part of the Indian social structure. Basically, the tribe as part of Indian social structure. Now, when you talk about this tribe as part of your Indian social structure, you basically need to understand why are they so alienated. Now, when you look at the tribe as part of your Indian society, the first thing comes to your mind is your alienation or tribal alienation. And for tribal alienation, you basically need to evaluate their conditions. You basically need to, what is the criteria for you to call a particular ethnic group or a particular section of the society as a tribal group. For example, your Debar Commission gives you a detailed criteria for you to classify a particular ethnic group as a tribal group. And we'll see a separate classification or sub-categorization of your tribal groups is your particularly vulnerable tribal groups, PVTGs, which is also the most awaited question with respect to your UPSC, your PVTGs.
Awaited in sense it hasn't been asked.
It hasn't been asked.
In mains it hasn't.
In mains. In prelims they have asked. In mains it hasn't been asked. Because when you talk about these PVTGs, A corollary to these PVTGs in the tribal ethnic group is your denotified semi-nomadic and nomadic tribes, which are not considered as or not given a status of scheduled tribe, but they are given a status of other backward class. And because of Reinke and Idate committee, which were, I think, Reinke committee has recently submitted its report in 2018. So in this context, I think your PVTGs is most awaited. And if they want to go if they want to little deviate from the conventional part, they can go for their denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes. We'll see what is Criminal Tribes Act 1871 in this section only. Okay. Now apart from this, apart from your caste, apart from your tribe, another important section which form the structure of Indian society is women. Now when you talk about this particular section of society, women, they are becoming a point of discussion in each of our sessions because of the inherent phenomena of patriarchy that is persisting in the Indian society. Now although it might appear that your patriarchy is an hidden phenomenon, but although it is an hidden phenomena, although your people are shy about talking on it, but when you look at its manifestations, it is seen in nook and corner of the Indian society. Now, for example, if you talk about your female feticides is a form of manifestations of the feelings of patriarchy, okay, or female infanticides. Any kind of such abrupt abortion of a particular baby or particular womb, it is basically a resultant of your patriarchal feeling. Then after that, you see the gender bias with respect to the education sector. You would understand the gender bias with respect to education sector when we deal with the social sector of education and when we talk about gross enrollment ratio with respect to your women. Now after that, then the marriage life enters. Then there you would see the issues of violence, or there you would see the issues of this dowry. All these are manifestations of patriarchy as a phenomenon. Now coming to that, even with respect to the funeral rites, only your male child is allowed to perform the funeral rites. Don't you think the patriarchy as a phenomenon in the Indian society exists from birth to death? Now because of such a deep-rooted phenomenon with respect to patriarchy, now it becomes extremely important for Indian society class to be dealing with women. Okay. And apart from this, we have certain marginal sections. Now when you talk about these marginal sections in specific, these marginal sections, basically you would see that they are resultant of any of these three. Now when you talk about your scheduled castes, they are basically resultant of caste oppressions, caste discriminations, caste alienations, or social subjugations. Okay. Now if you talk about your scheduled tribe, you have already seen with respect to their geographical isolation, with respect to their alienation, cultural subjugations, all this. Now apart from them, you would study about the transgenders, you would study about the old people or the phase of senescence. Okay, you would study about the disabled.
So what was the word you used? Phase of?
Senescence. Or geriatric care.
Okay.
Geriatric or senescence. Okay, disabled. We'll see why are they considered as marginal section? Now when you look at all of these, or whatever we have discussed as marginal sections, your scheduled tribes, your scheduled castes, your disabled, your old people, transgender, the common phenomena that is persistent among all these sections being considered as marginal sections is The first criteria and the important criteria is because of their population. They are numerical minority when you look at Indian society. Now, what do I basically mean by numerical minority when you look at Indian society is, now if you talk about scheduled caste, there are around 17.2%. Now, if you talk about scheduled tribe, there are around 8.6%, right? Now, if you talk about, say, transgenders, there are around 5 so I think to be very precise, 4.88 lakh people of transgender as per census 2011. Now, when you talk about old people, they are around 8.6% and which is anticipated to become 20% by 2050. Now, if you talk about disabled people, they are around 2.6%. 2.6, 8.6, transgender 4.88 lakh as per 2011 census. Then your scheduled caste, you have 17.2%. Then your scheduled tribes, 8.6%. Now, when you look at the mere numbers of these sections, don't you think they are minority in themselves? They are marginal in themselves. Leave about their socio-economic conditions, leave about their political representation, leave about their employment status. But just by mere number itself, they are marginal or they are minorities. Now, because of this number game in Indian society, you would see that because of this low representation or low numerical strength, you would see that it gets manifested in the form of low socio-economic status, low political representation, low opportunities for your employment. Okay. So, because of these things, they themselves as a community become marginal sections. And when you start addressing the issues of these particular sections, or when you take a welfare mechanism upholding your Article 38 of your Indian Constitution, where it opines that India needs to maintain its objective as a welfare state, and that process of ensuring or tackling the issues of this marginal section is what is called as social justice. Welfare state, Article 38. And whole of this process of tackling these issues with respect to this marginal sections, you call it as social justice, which is part of your GS2. So your GS2 social justice part is a consequence of certain changes, certain maladjustments, certain conditions of disruptions, certain kinds of disequilibrium situations that exist with respect to your structure of Indian society. Now, in the process of ensuring this social justice, we basically need to ensure something called as social empowerment, which is part of your GS1 as well as GS2. Okay.
So you can just tap on the plus, sir.
This? Acha, you want me to add a slide? Okay. No, we used to have that clearing at a time. We can slide, okay. Right? Now when you look at this, acha, why red is not visible? Okay, 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 okay. Now when you talk about the social structure, when there is change or when there is maladjustment, I said, when there is disequilibrium position or when there is disruption, it results in your social issues. So when your social structure is disturbed, it results in social issues. And when your social issues are being tackled, when it is being tackled, it is called as social justice. Now, in order to ensure this social justice, the intermediate step is your social empowerment. And in order to ensure this social empowerment, we need something called as social security. We need something called as social security. Now, in order to ensure your social security, we need social welfare schemes or social welfare mechanism. Basically, in your GS1, we'll be only dealing with this part majorly, and we'll also deal this intermediate part with respect to your GS1, because in this intermediate part we would see what is the role of urbanization, we would see what is the role of, say, globalization. We would see what is the role of secularism. We'll see what is the role of regionalism or communalism. We'll see them as the reasons for disruptions in your social structure, and we'll see them as a consequence of disruption of social structure. When you talk about your regionalism and communalism, they are basically disruptions with respect to secularism as a fabric of Indian society. This is clear. Now, when you look at these social issues, I said whatever kind of disruptions that are happening in your social structure or the fabric of Indian society is being disturbed, then it manifests in the form of social issues. Under social issues, children, women, disabled, old, transgenders, SCs and STs, and all of them in the context of social welfare mechanism. All of them in the context of social welfare mechanisms. So basically, this is the broad outline or broad interlinkage with respect to your GS1 and GS2 syllabus. Okay. Now, when we look at the course of lecture for next 4 days, our course of lecture will be, first we'll try to understand the Indian society as such, basically the diversity element of Indian society. Now, when you understand the diversity element of Indian society, basically you will be able to comprehend what are the friction points that exist with respect to the structure of Indian society or with respect to the diversity element of Indian society. Now, when we are able to realize this disruptions, then it will be easy for us to look into the tackling of these particular issues. Because when you look in the recent past with respect to questioning, more than direct, they have become little more conceptual understanding and they have become little more interlinkage part. Okay. Now, for example, this year they have asked a question on obscurantism. Obscurantism. I think half of the people did not know the meaning of obscurantism. So they started using keywords with respect to your Indian society. Now, when you look at your GS2 paper also, I think they had asked a question on geriatrics or geriatric care. Now, I don't remember the exact verbatim of the question. That was also very difficult to understand. So, unless and until you have a broader perspective of what is the interlinkage between your Indian society and how are they manifesting in the form of social issues and how they are to be tackled in the manner of social justice, you will not be able to answer these questions. Because I think last year also they had asked a question with respect to women. They did not ask you the issues of women directly. They said the women or the issues of women are spread across space and time. Elaborate. It was a 15 marker. Now here again there is huge scope for interpretation. Yes, space and time. Do you say space and time in India or space and time overall? Now, because when you take space and time as a broader concept, you have certain sections of the world where you see your women empowerment happening, right? Where you see your issues are not persisting. Now, you see certain sections of world like India or towards the eastern margins, you basically find a marginalization of women as a part of society. That is one kind of interpretation. The second kind of interpretation is with respect to India, within India. You find that women of southern Indians are more empowered than your northern Indians comparatively. because of their socio-economic conditions, because of their socio-economic status, because of their literacy, because of their employment opportunities. In the similar manner, when you look at the women of northeastern states, they are even more empowered than the southern or northern states comparatively because of their ethnic compositions. This is one interpretation. The third interpretation for the same question happened was space. Is it home or domestic space, or is it public space? Your office, your public places. Now for this, unless and until you understand broadly, you cannot interpret what examiner wanted actually. Now at least I think he wanted this kind of interpretation. Because when you look at if you're considering space as your whole world, then I don't think you can justify your answer very well there. Because you cannot get a crystallized points for you to express. Now if you talk about regional aspect also, like north, south, east, west, there also you cannot, suppose if you're giving something, you need to basically substantiate it there. I think this would have been the easiest form of interpretation and writing also. Because domestic space, you have number of issues, your dowry, your domestic violence, right? Or the concept of triple burden with respect to women. Then if you talk about public space, basically their safety and security, equal opportunities, the concept of glass ceiling effect, the concept of slippery floors. We'll see all this when we are discussing women. Okay. Now they asked about time. Now here the interpretation for time would have been
A lifetime maybe.
prehistoric,
Like within the
past, present and future. That is one interpretation, a broader interpretation. The other interpretation is what you said, the lifetime, from womb to tomb. Basically life cycle approach of women. I think that would have been a simpler way of writing it. Okay. Now if you want little more comparative analysis, maybe you could have gone for an temporal approach by saying prehistoric it was like this, medieval it was like this, present it is like this. But if you want little more conceptual thing to be put in, then you could have gone for life cycle approach. Okay. So when you look at this Indian society and social justice questions in your exam, they are becoming more of a point of interpretation. Okay. Now unless and until you interpret it correctly, it is not going to be justified. And your interpretation, apart from interpreting it correctly, you basically need to interpret it in such a way that you have content to write. Now we cannot interpret and start the question, because after your introduction, that is what setting the momentum of your question. Now suppose in your introduction you interpret space as world or say different regions of India, then you are supposed to write your answer in that dimension only. So in such questions, when you are writing questions on Indian society and social justice, I would suggest you to take one more extra minute and think and interpret the question correctly. Because when it comes to polity, when it comes to history, I don't think there is any kind of interpretation that is needed. The area of interpretation with respect to your UPSC exam is, one is in ethics, the other one is social justice and Indian society. Because they are more or less interlinked. And one more thing, please don't forget to bring in ethical aspect in your GS1 and GS2. This is extremely important for you to score well in your Indian society paper. At least one point. If you are not getting anything, just write the morale of the section is affected, or they would have a weak ethical fabric, or they would have a weak morale with respect to their own systems or their own community. Okay, so try to bring in ethical aspect when you're writing an answer on social issues or your Indian society. Now because in your ethics also, I think in your second chapter you would have the role of society in imbibing ethics. Okay. Now we'll start with the first topic. It is Indian diversity. Now I forgot. Now when you look at this section, now when there are persisting social issues, and when there are marginalizations of different sections, I think when I was discussing about internal security, I've talked about PRO formula. Yes, you all remember? What is PRO formula? That means you're not revising what we have done. Huh?
Not getting time to even read, sir, as of now.
Oh, hectic classes. Good only, no? Syllabus gets over fast. Okay. Your participation, your resources and opportunities. Now, in order to ensure social justice, in order to ensure the element of social empowerment, basically I said I have given you that formula of PRO. When I was talking about insurgency, when I was talking about Naxalism, there your participation, your resources and opportunities. Now when there are social issues persisting because of deviation in your social structure, don't you think it is going to impact all three? The extent of participation is going to be impacted, the extent of resource allocation to a particular section is impacted, the extent of opportunities that are being availed by a particular section is also affected. Now because of the impact on this PRO, now don't you think the social problem is going to get manifested into economic problem? Yes. Don't you think this particular social issue which has arisen because of the disruption, disequilibrium, disturbance in your social structure, don't you think it is going to manifest because of absence or because of inaccessibility to your participation, resources and opportunities into an economic issue? Yes. And that economic issue is nothing but poverty. That economic issue is nothing but poverty. Now when you look at the Constituent Assembly debates, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, when he was talking about preamble, when he was talking about types of justice, he emphasizes that social justice is the foundation to ensure political and economic justice. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar emphasized during his Constituent Assembly debates about social justice for you to realize for you to realize economic or political justice. Now, if you get time, please surf about Ambedkar's 3 sins. Just read, I think it's a 4-page document, Ambedkar 3 sins. I think you would have read. He talks about hero worship, he talks about social justice or importance of social justice. Just read the 3 sins of a democracy by Ambedkar. I think it's a 4 to 5 page document. It'll have little complex language. Read it once or twice. You would get the crux of it. Okay. Class law. Class. Okay. Now don't you think this poverty as an issue, when we are discussing poverty as an issue, we'll talk about multi-dimensional aspect of or multi-dimensional poverty index, which was again a question which was asked this year in your GS2. Okay, multi-dimensional poverty index. Now don't you think there is a vicious cycle that persists between your social issues and economic issues? Don't you think it's a kind of loop? It's a kind of vicious cycle. Now because of social issues, you are having economic issues being erupted because of the absence or inaccessibility or PRO, participation, resources and opportunities. And because of the absence of these, it is leading to economically weaker sections, or it is leading to economic marginalization. Now, because of this economic marginalization, again, don't you think you're not able to avail to the certain social aspects like your health, like your education, or certain social sector schemes? Now, when you're not able to access to these certain social sector schemes like your health, like your education, don't you think again it is leading to inaccessibility to your participation, resources and opportunities? Because your health, your education, all these social elements which are determined on the basis of the economic empowerment, don't you think they determine the productivity of an individual? They determine the productivity of a community. They determine the productivity of a particular section of the society. Now, when all these are determining a productivity of a particular section of the society, and because of lack of access to all this, don't you think there is a decline in the productivity of that particular section or community? Now, when the inherent productivity or the inherent potential of that particular community is not being realized because of economic marginalization, don't you think it is going to further lead to social issues? Disruption, social unrest, absence of social harmony, absence of social capital. That's why when you look at your policy makers, the main emphasis they talk about, now please remember, any policy making will have three types of capitals. It will have three types of capital. One is physical capital, human capital and social capital. Now, unless and until you ensure these two, your physical capital like your infrastructure, like your building of schools, building of hospitals, building of roads, connectivity, all this, unless and until you ensure physical capital being created in the pattern of infrastructure, you cannot ensure human capital to manifest. Your human capital is nothing but the literacy, the health indicators, the employment opportunities, or the employability of a particular individual. Now, unless and until you are able to realize or manifest your physical as well as your human capital, do you think your social capital comes into the picture? Now, what is social capital? Social capital can be simply defined as the amount of mutual social trust that is present in the society, or a kind of dividend or a kind of point of leverage that is being created by the magnitude or by the quantum of trust that is present in the society. Now, if a particular society is having more trust, more harmony, more tolerance, more peace, more coexistence, that particular society is said to have more social capital. Now, unless and until you have your physical capital, unless and until you have your human capital being created, do you think your social capital is going to be created? No. Now, basically, you would see that because of lack of access to this, it basically leads to marginalization of that particular section. And because of marginalization, do you think there will be harmony among people? Do you think there will be tolerance among people? There will be peace among people? No. And because of this absence of all of this, or because of prevalence or persistence of social unrest among people, it leads to lack of social capital. Now, when there is lack of social capital in a particular section of society or in a society, that is the root cause or the foundation for your societal disintegration. That is the root cause for your societal disintegration. That is the root cause for your societal disruptions. And all the societal disintegration or societal disruptions are nothing but your social issues. Is this clear? I mean, this is a broader perspective that you need to understand and keep it ready with you. Because unless and until you know this broader perspective, what is the relation between Indian society, what is its structure, what is the relation with respect to social issues, and what is the role of social empowerment which is manifested in the form of social justice, and how is social justice related to your economic justice, and if there is absence of economic justice, how is it resulting in your poverty, and how your poverty is further resulting in social injustice. Is this clear? Now, if you are clear with this, it helps you to write even a good essay with respect to any of the social issues topic. Right? Now the trend with respect to UPSC is they are going for more broader questions and less of specific. Now in UPSC exam it is very easy to write a specific question, but it becomes very difficult for you to interpret and for you to structure and for you to prioritize about your broader perspective. And for that you basically need broader understandings, right? Is it clear? Right? The first topic is Indian diversity.
As we discussed you gave us initially a route map of the entire syllabus and then we dived into the syllabus. Can we do the same with this subject? I mean, that approach I felt like it was very good even for revision and of sorts. So do we have some sort of route map for this also?
For which? GS1?
GS1, I mean this entire social justice topic.
I didn't get you.
Initially, when we were discussing the internal security, you kind of gave us what the broad topics we'll be discussing
Okay.
in terms of route map.
Acha. You mean to say I gave you something like micro topicing kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have something on that for this also?
No, because this has a lot of interlinkages. So I cannot go micro topicing because if I have to talk about next topic, I certainly need to deal with previous topic. So meanwhile, maybe you'll get that route maps only in middle. Okay. One flowchart which I gave you previously is one such route map. You're supposed to note down because that gives you a broader perspective, right? Now, what about Indian diversity? What is Indian diversity? What is diversity? Variations. Any formal kind of definition for diversity?
Different group of species
Mm-hmm.
living in a group of in a group in a particular
In a particular area.
Different beings with different characteristic traits.
Okay. Basically, a diversity. It talks about multiplicity. It talks about multiplicity with respect to the physical traits. It talks about multiplicity with respect to behavioral traits. It talks about multiplicity with respect to functional traits. If a particular section of society is incorporating multiplicity with respect to your physical traits, multiplicity with respect to behavioral traits, multiplicity with respect to functional traits, or to simply put it, multiplicity in their structural aspect and multiplicity in their functional aspect, you can call it as diversity.
behavioral traits, last one.
Functional traits. So it is either your structural aspect or your functional aspect. Okay, either your structural aspect or your functional aspect. Now, what is the undercurrent with respect to your diversity? Why a particular society can be more diverse?
Because of
Specialization of
the work and workload.
workload. You mean to say division?
Division of labor, yes.
Okay.
Based on their culture, I think like the practices which they follow, or
Okay.
the profession which they do.
I'm just looking for one keyword.
Ethnicity.
Geography, ethnicity. It's part of your ethics syllabus also.
Religious belief.
Tolerance. Or it is the capacity of acceptance. Now for diversity to flourish, you basically need to have that capacity to accept or that element of tolerance, so that the necessary structure of a particular society and the necessary function of a particular society is maintained. It is not disturbed. Now when this element of tolerance or when this element of acceptance is absent, it becomes an inherent threat for your diversity. Now what are the advantages of diversity? 2 to 3 points, so that this gets handy when a question comes very broad. What are the advantages of diversity?
Various traits, like as stated, like physical traits and behavioral traits can be imbibed within the society.
Okay, one is
Helps in cultural, increasing the cultural heritage of the
societal stability, then cultural dividend. I would call it as cultural dividend. Then human rights, something called as freedom of choice. Social stability, cultural dividend, human rights. It also has certain economic potential. With respect to your tourism, right? Any other aspect?
not only tourism, you can also add all the
Any kind of products, right? So indigenous products or any kind of thing, it has an economic potential. Any other advantage of diversity?
So what is cultural dividend?
I'll tell you. Any other advantage? Soft power. Your diplomatic relations or the art of diplomacy, right? Now see here, when you talk about dividends, it is basically whatever kinds of returns you get on certain investments, right? Dividends, when you're selling your PSUs, it is disinvestment to one extent, and if you're the other kind of revenue that you earn from your PSUs are dividends, which are part of your revenue receipts. There. And when you talk about disinvestment, it is part of your capital receipts. So these are nothing but a kind of returns. Now in the case of Indian society, we have cultural dividend. That means because of the cultural diversity, whatever kind of returns we are going to get, it might be in the form of your economic potential, it might be in the form of soft power, or any other, like your cultural enrichments, like your cultural diffusions.
Then we also say that the flow of FDI plus
Economic potential. So cultural enrichments, cultural diffusions. Okay.
Cultural enrichment and diffusion.
Diffusion, cultural assimilations. Right? Now, what are the negatives of diversity? Are there any negative aspects of diversity? Disadvantage or negative aspects of diversity?
becomes
Clashes between two
Complex.
conflicts.
Can I say it is more volatile? It is more volatile. If you create a small spark of friction, then that is enough to disturb your social fabric. Any other disadvantage of diversity?
more number of hotlines. That's
Hard to implement any policies
Good.
need to understand to create different
Good. Basically, it demands
concerns about different
multiplicity of, say, policies. Or it demands a greater level of consensus. Might be with respect to social consensus or political consensus. Any other aspect?
Works for superiority.
Very good. Very good. Or something called as cultural subjugations. Something called as cultural subjugations.
Conditional diffusion is mentioned.
Is this clear? Now I think this is one crisis point where if you want to manage a question, if they are asking the advantages and disadvantages of diversity, or the crux of the question is they are asking you basically to critically examine the element of diversity, then you are supposed to write all this. Now in your exam hall it becomes very difficult for you to think about all these points. So keep at least 5 ready, so that in exam hall at least 3 comes to your mind, more than sufficient. Okay.
Sir, in advantages we write as social stability. Here it is volatile. Is
That's why it is critically examined. That's why it is critically examined. Now when these conditions are disturbed, I mean for these conditions to be disturbed, there is high vulnerability and high probability. That's why we examine it as volatile situation. Yes? Small thing is enough. What is your communalization? I mean, what is your communalism?
Clash between
2 sections, 2 communities. Now you find that 2 communities even fighting for 100 rupee note. Yes? Yes? This happened in Delhi. This happened in Delhi.
I'm not aware of this incident.
Yes, this happened in Delhi. They in fact burnt around 20 bikes and killed 3 people.
I mean,
2 different communities.
for 100 rupees.
For 100 rupee note, for 100 rupees. 2017 incident. I was in Delhi. Yes. You may not believe, but yes, that is a sad state. That's why I call it as volatile society.
it's moreover it's
Then section 144 was imposed there.
it's not regarding communism, right?
That was communalism only.
Like for fighting for something
They had certain sentiments that were revolving around that 100 rupee note.
like the Palestine issue. Okay.
Not to mention about the communities, but they had certain issues.
By the way, what is special about that note, sir? Now I'm very curious.
Maybe Gandhiji was looking more beautiful there.
It's like ashes.
Huh? I think that just become an element of spark. It would have been, I mean, certain things would have been breeding up there, and this became a spark. Right? So these are certain advantages and disadvantages of your diversity. Now coming into the types of diversity that your India has. What are the types of diversity? One is geographical. Cultural is a very broad thing.
Religion.
Linguistic. Then
Religious.
religious. Ethnic. Or I'll call it as racial. Then
Within the religion, caste also.
Economic diversity.
Within the religion,
caste. Okay. That I think Okay, caste is a separate thing. Fine.
Muslims also have caste.
Yeah, everybody has. We'll see. Any other diversity element?
Culinary diversity. Culinary diversity.
What is this?
Culinary food.
Okay. Culinary diversity. I thought that is some community. I don't know. Culinary. Right? Food, dressing.
Economic.
Sir, it all comes under cultural diversity, right?
That's why I'm not talking about cultural diversity. It's a broad term.
All
So basically, when we look at the examination of impact of urbanization, we are supposed to take each of this. That's why I'm enlisting it in so detail. So food, economic, I'll not talk about it here because economic is more an economic perspective. We are basically dealing with the Indian social structure. So this one is dress or dressing. Then with respect to your art and architecture. Now under your art only your music, painting, all these kinds are coming up. Now when you talk about geographical diversity, you have mountains, you have rivers, you have forests, you have grasslands, right? All of your Indian geography. Your Indian geography. Now when you talk about your linguistic diversities, we have around 1700 dialects and 22 scheduled languages.
no official religions.
Huh?
No official languages.
No official language. But what is your Article 351 talks about?
Usually acts as an official language, but
No, it is mentioned in 351.
it's official language, so not national language. Sorry,
Ah.
official language.
Article 351. What about your religious diversity? We have 6 minority religions and 1 major religion. Okay. Now ethnic, we have multiple ethnic communities. It might be your tribes or it might be your non-tribes. Please remember your ethnic communities can be divided into tribes and non-tribes. Now when you talk about your racial, we have your Mongoloid. We have your Mongoloid. Mongoloid basically means the characteristic feature of Mongoloidal race is epicanthic fold. They call something called as epicanthic fold. Example is here Chinese, northeastern people. Epicanthic fold is basically they'll have a fold like this on their eye. Just go and look at the northeastern people. That is Mongoloid race. Now when you talk about your Aryan race or Indo-Aryan race, it is mostly Caucasoidal in nature, right? Caucasoids. Okay. Mongoloid, Caucasoids and Negritos. Your Negritos basically your certain tribal groups of your Andaman Nicobar and even your Kerala. Kerala also you have certain, tribal groups which are classified as Negritos. For example, Kadar tribe. See, Tamil Nadu people are classified as Indo-Dravidians. See, I am not getting into detailed racial classification of India because you have different thinkers. For example, Risley, for example, B.S. Guha, for example, S.S. Sarkar. All these people classify it into different sections. When you look at your B.S. Guha classification, he gives about 7 different types of racial entities in India. Okay. So I'm not getting into detail. That's why I'm just discussing about broader aspect of racial elements. You have all 3 major races, but the presence of Negrito is little skeptical about. That's it.
Can you spell Negritos?
Thank you.
Negritos. Now when you look at your caste diversity, it is present in your Hinduism, Christianity, Muslims, Buddhists, all these have caste elements. All these have caste elements. Now when you talk about your Christians, among Christians also they have different castes. Now Catholics, Protestants are not caste system. They are basically different practices.
Casteism within such religions is very much endemic to India, right? Or is it practiced around the world?
Practiced around the world.
Christianity.
No, Catholics and Protestants is not a caste. It is not a caste.
It's not a caste, but there are two different sections within the same, like Sunnis and Shias within the same.
They are different sects. They are not castes. Caste is different from a sect. We'll see when we're dealing with caste, we'll see the dynamics of caste. First, we'll see the definition of caste, we'll see dynamics of caste, then we'll also see about the Ambedkar's view of caste. I think we need to be equipped with Ambedkar's and Gandhian view of caste so that there can appear a question. Because when you look at the changing trend of caste, you see that caste is very dynamic in these days. Especially when it comes to the impact of urbanization, when it comes to impact of globalization. You would see that this caste system started to metamorphosize itself into class system. We'll see what is that change. Okay, and we'll see what basically Ambedkar talked about caste system or intercaste marriages in your Annihilation of Caste. He writes a book called Annihilation of Caste. Okay, now you have your food, culinary, then dress, art and architecture. Okay. Now the purpose of me enlisting all these types is, you don't need to know in detail about each of these types for exam, because you can never expect a question that enlist the types of diversity of India. That is impossible. They will not ask you so direct. Now when you are supposed to evaluate the diversity of India in the context of globalization, when you are supposed to evaluate the diversity of India in the context of urbanization, and when you are supposed to evaluate the concept of diversity in terms of other challenges that are created for your diversity. For example, when you talk about challenges to diversity, don't you think regionalism is a challenge to diversity? Don't you think your communalism is a challenge to diversity? Don't you think your militancy, insurgency, all these kinds are challenge to your diversity? Yes. Now when these are persisting as a challenges to your diversity, you are supposed to consider each of these elements so that you will get a good structure in your answer. Okay, so that is the purpose of enlisting different types of diversities. Is this clear? Changing diversity or dynamics of diversity. Whatever I am dealing till now are very, very broad aspects. Very, very broad aspects. Because it is very tough to write an answer on a broad aspect or broader aspect. Changing diversity. Now you people tell me the nature of changing diversity. Under changing diversity, you basically need to look at the factors. Before factors, you basically need to look at the nature, the factors and the impact. One is nature of change, the factors of change and the impact of change. Now if it is creating a negative impact, then we are supposed to evaluate the measures also. You are supposed to evaluate the measures also. Right? Now tell me, what is the nature of changing diversity? How is it changing?
Two different arts are coming together.
Okay.
Migration, assimilation.
Can I talk about something called as composite cultures? The first nature of dynamic with respect to your diversity or the changing diversity, there is more prevalence of composite cultures. Yes, for example, your fusion music. For example, your
Painting.
say semi-classical dance. What is all this?
Fusion of a different.
The Bollywood dance, that's it. Right?
Ah. Okay.
Fusion of different art forms.
Contemporary art, your modern art. Just throw some paint bottles, becomes modern art. Sorry, I'm not hurting any artist here. Just a view on perception. I'm sorry.
Multi-cuisine foods.
Huh?
Multi-cuisine foods.
Multi-cuisine foods. And you even have a post called, I think, some art analyst or something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think.
They get highly paid for doing that.
Yeah, they interpret a modern art, and we stand and search where is it? What is going on in this? Okay, basically that is impact of your other cultures, right? Lack of mental stability. What? Huh? Right. So one is composite cultures. What is the other kind of dynamic? Can I talk about something called as homogenization of culture? Here I can even talk about something called as hybrid cultures.
This is the nature of that. Nature of
Nature of changing dynamics. Homogenization of diversity or homogenization of culture. Any other dynamic? Any other dynamic?
So homogenization leads to
Composite.
composite, right?
Any other dynamic?
Imposition of cultures.
Cultural subjugations. Okay. You can add.
So what is meant by homogenization? Sir? What is meant by homogenization and how is it different from cultural subjugation?
Homogenization, basically all the diverse elements are,
Two cultures mix.
they are becoming uniform. I mean, the distinction between one culture to other culture are
So marginal.
diminished.
Okay. Fault lines are being.
Ha.
New culture is
New,
being emerged.
new kind of culture, I will not say, but although in the same old culture, the other cultural elements are homogenized. Homogenized. Can I say universalization? Yes.
How is it different from homogenization on the global scale?
Edi?
Universalization.
Universalization.
How is it different from homogenization?
Basically, when you look at this universalization, it is all about your local traditions going at the global level. They are becoming global traditions. For example, your Batukama. Your Batukama was a village festival. Now today you see at Hoskas in Delhi also a poster of Batukama. What does it indicate? Why till Delhi? People around here, loud music, dancing around. Yes.
Diwali also being celebrated in different countries.
Hmm.
Like,
Yes.
how
Now one example for that is your Raksha Bandhan. Raksha Bandhan is also a kind of local culture or local tradition.
Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all that.
That-
From there to here.
That is parochialization. That is different. That is the next trend. That is the next dynamic. One is universalization. From your local trends, they are becoming into global trends. Parochialization is the other dynamic. Parochialization. Now, what is parochialization? Just the opposite of universalization. Yes? Now, even in your rural areas, a 6th class boy goes and gives a Valentine ring to your 6th class girl. Why? Parochialization of culture. Huh? I am sorry if I am telling, I think 6th class is too old to fall into love. Now it starts from 3rd, 2nd.
Too old to fall.
Huh? That's all the impact of. On a lighter note, I am sorry. Right?
Global trends populating into local areas.
Perfect. To simply represent it, you can put it like this: global traditions, local traditions. From local traditions to this is universalization. This is parochialization. Any other changing dynamic? Any other changing dynamic?
Local people adopting the culture of different community.
I think that was supposed to be first one. Thank you. I'm sorry. Cultural admixtures. Cultural admixtures. These are different dynamics with respect to your diversity as an element, right? Now these are broader aspects. That's why suppose if you apply cultural admixtures to certain castes, it might not apply. Okay, so certain elements of your Indian diversity, they do not apply with respect to these, or one point may not apply to one aspect, the other point may apply to it. Okay, so I'm basically generalizing the different dynamics of your diversity. This is a broader perspective. Now when we are dealing with each of the things like your caste, like your scheduled tribes, we'll see what is the changing dynamic with respect to that kind of social structure, and we'll also see what are the factors impacting that kind of social structure. So these are more generalizations, right? So that is with respect to nature. Then what about the factors? Broad factors. Give me broad factors.
Migration, globalization,
Migration,
Missionaries.
missionaries,
proselytization or whatever.
proselytization,
Okay.
simply put, your industrialization, your urbanization, your globalization, privatization, then your migration. Any other factor? Your transportation. One is industrialization, urbanization, globalization. What is P? Privatization, migration, transportation, westernization, and modernization. Westernization and modernization. Now, if you look at the factors of changing diversity, they can be safely divided into two factors, two broad factors. One is exogenic, the other one is endogenic. Now, when you look at factors like globalization, when you look at factors like westernization and modernization, all these three are exogenic. Basically, these are kinds of external forces that are acting onto the diversity of India, resulting in change in the diversity. Now, when you look at endogenic factors here, industrialization, urbanization, migration, transportation, yes, or your privatization, all these are part of your endogenic. Endogenic are those which originate from within the country. Endo, within, exo, outside. Is this clear? Now when you look at Indian social structure, When you look at the Indian social structure and the factors impacting the Indian social structure, you would find that mostly all of these factors are going to impact. Now, if you are not getting any specific point to write on the changing or the reasons or factors for changing particular social structure, simply write all this. Simply write all this. Instead of getting 3, you will get 2 at least. Okay, because these bringing change with respect to any kind of social element. You talk about caste, you talk about tribal relations or tribes, or you talk about women, you talk about children, you talk about the extent of poverty, you talk about the ethical fabric of the society. Yes, it brings in changes. Now tell me, what is the impact? Now what is the impact?
You can have the same points in nature also.
That's it. That's it. The nature of changing diversity is nothing but your impact of changing diversity. Your impact of changing diversity. Now, if you have to evaluate the changing diversity in terms of the impact, again, positive and negative. Now, whatever 5-6 points we have discussed, throw 3 in positive, throw 3 in negative. That's it. My dear, please remember, when you're writing your mains exam, out of 20 questions, you would not know more than 8 to 10. At only 8 to 10 questions you will have a direct answer to write. Rest other 10 questions, you're supposed to mesmerize the examiner. So that when he sees your answer, he comes with a garland. Okay. The only way of making him do, or what you can do, is ensure structure of the answer. Now, if you say structure is more important or content is more important, I will say structure is more important. Because when you have a decent structure, content automatically falls in. Content automatically falls in. Now, when you have structure of endogenic and exogenic, don't you think content will come automatically? And when you know the word exogenic basically means external factors and endogenic basically means internal factors, don't you think you'll get content automatically? Now, under each of these headings, if you write 3 points, that is more than sufficient, because this is going to be only one section of the question. Yes or no? So, overall for a 15 marker, if you write 12 points, more than sufficient. And please remember, I think I already told in your internal security sessions, the introduction of an answer has to be like your RGV trailer. I think I already mentioned about it. Yes, it has to be like an RGV trailer. Now, however the movie is, that is okay. Chalega wo. Why? It is all about perception management. Yes. Whole of your administration, whole of your policy making, whole of your security issues, whole of your social issues, whole of your economic issues. If you ask me why are they erupting, I will say they are just a resultant of failure of perception management. Now take 15 minutes and think on it. You would see that your communalism is a consequence of failure of perception that India is a tolerant society. Yes or no? Your regionalism, basically it's a failure of perception that all the regions are being treated equally. Yes or no? The marginalization of sections, it is basically failure of perception of the equality before law and equal protection of law. Yes? Okay. So that is with respect to impact. Now this is all about the broader understanding of diversity. Now we still did not enter the subject. Now this is again a broad aspect of diversity. Now in the similar manner,
So in the previous question which you have asked, like in the mains question, changing dynamics of the caste system, so we can write more or less write the same concept.
no. That's why I told it will not apply for caste.
But these are also the factors which are.
Factors exactly the same. Factors are same, but impact will be slightly different. That you will understand when we deal with the caste structure. Okay. Today's half session we will spend only on understanding broader elements. Okay, because once you are ready with your broader elements, then your Indian society and social justice does not require any preparation. You just need to know what are the broader aspects, how are things changing, what are the consequences, what are the measures. Now, once you know what are the factors, you would automatically know what are the consequences if you have a broader understanding. Okay, so in this first session, we'll mostly do only your broader understandings. Now, looking at the social structure in terms of diversity, because Indian social structure is characterized with something called as diversity. Now, don't you think whatever factors are impacting the changing diversity, they are impacting diversity? They are either reducing the element of diversity, or they are increasing the element of diversity, or they are taking the element of diversity to other parts of the world in the form of universalization of culture. Yes or no? Now, one classic example for universalization of culture is your destination weddings. What are your destination weddings? You find 10 foreigners coming, you make them stand at the gate, do namaste, namaste. They call it destination wedding. Why? Why? Because when you look at, and those weddings are extremely costly. I don't understand where they pour money for.
Those come under parochialization.
No.
It's
Universalization.
It's not our trend. It's not our local trend.
Marriage, celebration of marriage is our trends.
Celebration of marriage is our trend, but celebrating in that way is not our trend.
Foreigners are doing
Foreigners
namaste.
doing
It is our trends only. Globalization only, universalization only. Yeah, basically the culture of marriage or the celebration of marriage is penetrated into the brains of the foreigners, for this case. So it's a kind of universalization. Okay. So now here, there might be an inherent threat to your diversity, there might be no threat to your diversity. Now, but what happens is, one thing is very certain, that there is going to be change. One thing is very certain, that there is going to be change. That is nothing but your social change. That is nothing but your social change. Because I am talking about change in the diversity dividend or change in the element of diversity with respect to Indian society, any kind of minuscule change will lead into a greater magnitude of consequences with respect to Indian social structure. That's why I am calling it as social change. Now, this social change can be positive or negative. It can be constructive or it can be destructive. Now, when your social change is constructive, there is promotion of diversity. There is promotion of diversity, or additional elements of diversity are added to it. Now, previously we used to have Hindustani and Carnatic. Now, today we have even fusion. We used to have guitar, we used to violin, we used to have piano, now we have guitar. It will be like your keyboard but in the form of guitar. This fusion, right? So you have an added element or a kind of constructive social change that is happening. Now, when you will better understand this positive element of social change when we are dealing with caste system. We had elements of caste discrimination. We had elements of subjugations. We had elements of alienation when you talk about caste with respect to the fifth varna or your untouchables. But because of exogenic and because of endogenic process or factors, we have seen that social change started to happen. And because of this social change happening, because of endogenic or exogenic factors, we find that there is a kind of positive element. Now, what is happening there? Previously, when you look at the dining practices, they were not supposed to eat together. Today, what is your restaurant culture? Everybody can eat at a same place, dining element. Yes. So, intermingling or commingling has become very common because of certain exogenic, certain endogenic factors. Now that kind of social change is positive because it is leading to the upliftment of or betterment of conditions of your fifth varna, that is your untouchables. But when you talk about that particular social change being destructive in nature, you would see that this caste system is metamorphosizing itself into class system. The class system of rich and poor. The class system of haves and have-nots. The class system of Benz and Nano. Yes? Yes? Now, although there is a constructive social change that is occurring because of exogenic and endogenic factors, you also have a destructive social change, which is calculated in the form of your Gini coefficient in your economy, which is represented by your Lorentz curve in your economy. And what you find with respect to the trends of Gini coefficient, or what you find with respect to your Lorentz curve, the Indian Gini coefficient has moved up from 0.18 to 0.37. It's almost like doubled. And this doubling of Gini coefficient basically indicates that the levels of income inequality have increased. Now these kinds of income inequalities, don't you think these income inequalities are going to lead to social inequalities? Because of there is variation with respect to accessing of social elements, like your education, like your health. Now because of this, don't you think whatever kind of change that has occurred, it is destructive in nature? This is what is meant by constructive social change and destructive social change. These two are very keywords, write down. Those are keywords. Now whenever you are trying to evaluate a particular phenomena in your Indian society or your social issues, you basically, maybe you can conclude or give a conclusive remarks, it's a constructive social change or a destructive social change. Or it can so happen that in your question itself they can ask you these.
So do we have any more key terms for negative social change, destructive social? I mean, Gini coefficient is one economic aspect which percolates into social change. But then do we have something specific for social change or something?
In the sense?
Marginalization, ghettoization, things like that. Can we just mention?
Mention, yeah, you can. You can. Marginalization, ghettoization, subjugations, alienations. Stereotyping, prejudices. Social indifferences.
Social indifference.
Indifference attitude basically mean that they don't care. It's a kind of apathy. It's a negative term when it comes to society. Social indifferences.
So if people have social indifference, doesn't that mean they have more tolerance?
No. Absolutely no. Irrespective of the other people, they want what has to be done for themselves.
Okay.
It's a point of breeding of greed, anger. In fact, it's an opposite phenomena for your tolerance. Right? So this one aspect with respect to your social change is also a broader aspect. Now because of this consequence of social change, we have seen constructive social change. If it is constructive, it's okay, it's fine. Because it is looking at the social development or it is looking at the societal upliftment of certain sections. But when you look at your destructive social change that is occurring, don't you think one of the manifestations of your destructive social change is social issues? Social issues. Now, how do you define social issues? Now, we'll see certain broader elements with respect to social issues. How do you define social issues?
Like, after the same opportunities, resources.
Okay.
We'll divide it into three and after that we can categorize.
Okay.
Issues pertaining to different sections of.
Issues pertaining to different sections, right? Any other understanding of social issues?
Anything which disturbs the fabric within the society.
Anything which
Disturbs the
deviates, anything which disturbs, anything which disrupts these social characteristics of a particular society. This is what is called as social issues. Anything that deviates, anything that disturbs, anything that disrupts the social characteristics of society is what is called as social issue. Now, what are the reasons for your social issues?
Differences between people and the government.
Differences between people,
and government.
people and government. Policies, okay. Policy insensitivities, right? One reason. Something called as policy insensitivity and inconsistency. Policy insensitivity and inconsistency. Any other reasons for social issues?
lack of opportunities by the different sections of the people to participate in the social well-being of the
Okay, okay.
So it's policy, insensitivity, and inconsistency.
Inconsistency.
Incompatibility among groups.
Incompatibility, okay. Any other factors of social issues?
patriarchy.
Again, your endogenic, exogenic. Again, your endogenic, exogenic. Divide. Your exogenic, very common: globalization, westernization, modernization. Yes. Under your endogenic, you can include your patriarchy, whatever kinds of existing or inherent social systems. Inequality, incompatibility, all this. You can even call this as something called as social maladjustments. This is another keyword. Social maladjustments. Social maladjustments.
So what is social maladjustments again?
Social maladjustments basically mean, suppose this is your structure of the society, but you want to be like this.
Demanding different.
Basically, it is not able to fit into the framework of your structure of the society. So between communities who want to be like this or who wants to be like this, there's a kind of social maladjustments. Now we'll deal about social maladjustments, or you'll study about social maladjustments when you talk about role of society in imbibing ethics in your GS4. Right? What are the consequences of social issues? Factors you can write, you can divide into exogenic and endogenic. What are the consequences of social issues?
When we're talking about social issues, causes itself, then we need to come from the ages, like from the history of perspective also we need to talk. Like what are the reasons which have caused social issues within the society itself? And these are the things which have engraved, like political sensitivity, political sensitivity. They have just increased the fault lines within.
See, basically these are social or the reasons for social issues. Now when you talk about sati, it is a social issue.
So it's prevailing in the past.
So the cause for social issue of sati is your patriarchy, or the inherent drawbacks in the social structure of Indian society. So your policy inconsistency or insensitivity is basically cause for the marginalization of certain weaker sections. And the marginalization of certain weaker sections will lead to certain social issues. We'll talk about juvenile delinquencies. When you talk about juvenile delinquencies, one of the fundamental reason behind juvenile delinquency is policy or insensitivity and inconsistency. When you're dealing with child in your social justice, we'll talk about juvenile delinquencies. What are the consequences of social issues?
Volatility.
Okay. Social stability. Social stability is affected. Your social capital is affected. Your social dividend is affected. Then see, it is becoming very difficult for us to write points. Why? It's very broad. It's very broad. Now say if the question was what are the consequences of caste oppression? 1, 2, 3, 4 you can write. You can write. And Indian society paper is becoming extremely broader in nature. That is the reason why we are going to spend around 2 hours on looking into how broader aspects can be dealt. Okay. Because social issues, you have multiple social issues. Now you don't know which point to write first, you don't know which point to write next. And at max you can write 6 to 7 points. And 6 to 7 points describing the social issues persisting in India is impossible. There are people like Ram Ahuja who write books and books on social issues of India. And we are supposed to write 6 to 7 points. That is the difficulty here. Huh?
How is he finding that kind of concept?
It is there. They are there.
Like they talking topic or topic wise or in a broader perspective.
Who? This Ram Ahuja as an author?
He doesn't have word limit.
Huh?
He doesn't have word limit.
He doesn't have?
Word limit.
What did we write?
You can write. You can write. You can write, my dear. You can write. Because one inherent drawback with respect to the person who is preparing UPSC is we are made to wear an optimistic glass. We are made to wear an optimistic glass, then look at the world.
That is how people should be, right?
Obviously, 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 no issues. But you will study the same kind of issue manifesting in bureaucracy as blind rationality.
That is the real.
The blind rationality is because of this optimistic glass which you are being forced to wear. And there is hardly an element of constructive criticism when you are talking about your policy evaluation. Now, any topper will come and tell you, don't abuse government in your paper. The first point they'll tell you when you're writing your GS2 answers, don't please get oversensitive about things and don't feel personal about writing an answer and right, he did this, he did that. The reason is we are made to wear the glass of optimism. And when you go and look into the real issues, I'm telling you it's my personal experience. I've roamed around 19 states. I run an NGO which sets up labs for government schools. We started with one village in Hoshiarpur in Punjab. Now it is spread around 18-19 states. And we have around 2000 plus volunteers, all from IITs and IISc Bangalore. And we have seen what is the real issue in each of these villages. I'll share my personal experience. We went for a first session. We were 4 of us. When I was in my masters in IIT Delhi, we were 4 of us and we went to this Hoshiarpur as... How many of you know Sonam Wangchuk? The 3 Idiots hero. Sonam Wangchuk. He was actually boggled by our idea and he took us to his place in Ladakh. Sonam Wangchuk. Okay. Now, let me share my initial day experience. First day we went to Hoshiarpur, we were 4. Now, I think 1 year of this activity was basically done by saving our stipends. I was a DST inspired fellow and we had some other people coming from SERB funding. So, we used to save our stipends and we used to fund this particular thing. Now, it's under Tata Trust. Now, it has been undertaken by Tata Trust as part of your corporate social responsibility. Now, when we went on the first day, a small village called Hoshiarpur in Punjab, we went to a very small school where all of the students are made to sit in one class. 8th, 9th, 10th, 1st, 2nd, everybody are made to sit in one class. And they'll have a cyclic pattern. I mean, first 1 hour will be your first class or 10th class, like that. So, hourly they'll have classes. So, we went and asked, I mean, we cannot say school management because the school itself was so small there. So, we went and asked the teacher, there was only one teacher. So, we went and asked the teacher, I mean, how many years have been, like this school has been? He said, it's around like 28 years old. The school is 28 years old. Now, what happened to your bureaucracy, my dear? Where is optimism here? It's not. 28 years old, fine, fantastic. Then we went and requested the teacher of that particular school, sir, we need students of 8th, 9th, 10th. You believe me, he took more than 45 minutes to segregate who is 8th, who is 9th, who is 10th. He had no clue. He himself was asking who is 8th, people will raise. Who is 9th? Some there have been even worse. So this condition was so horrible. Then we started interacting to them in Hindi. English, forget. Hindi. Then we just took a session on extraterrestrial bodies and planetary system. Okay, because planetary system, teaching about planetary system, we had one physicist in our group. Okay, he was also my senior in my school. So he thought, like, let's start the session with physics. And he took a session on planetary systems. So planetary system, we'll talk why a planet is round. We'll talk about the forces of gravity. Then it was a 15-20 minute session. Then we opened the session for questions. Now teacher is Mamal Goktanar. Sir, nobody will ask you questions. Why are you wasting your time? I said, no, let them. Then one student out of blue, he got up. I think he was a student 8th or 9th standard guy. He gets up very seriously. Then he thought, oh good, we have one doubt at least. So that means they have listened to us. He got up very seriously with serious face. He said, like, sir, my mom makes a chapati which is round in nature. Why is that round?
Yeah, even that was like.
Why is that round? Why is that round? So basically it means that whatever session we have taken, it created an impact.
He's relating with his own.
Created an impact. Although we might laugh sitting here, but there it was really inspiring. Where there was no culture of questioning a teacher. Forget about questioning a teacher, no sessions of labs or experiments or nothing of that sort. Now it started instigating change in that particular person's mindset. Now my dear, there are so many such issues persisting. We are just tackling a speck of it. We have multiple experiences when we visited Sikkim or schools in Darjeeling, Assam. Believe me, northeastern states are way ahead with respect to the education infrastructure. Although we might seem that we are basically talking about northeastern alienations, but there, after visiting the schools in northeast, we really understood that why women are more empowered in that particular region. Because the kind of emphasis their mothers and their fathers give with respect to the girl child education, it is phenomenal, I'm telling you. Now it's almost like 1:1 ratio, or it is more girls and less boys in schools. So there are many such issues. Okay. Once for us the glass of optimism has to be only till you enter the exam. After entering into the system, you basically need to wear the glass of pragmatism or reality. What is on ground? Now, why do you think only few civil servants are named here and there? You have around 6,000 bureaucrats or IAS officers. You hardly can name 30, 40. Why?
They cater to the needs of society.
Basically, they have changed their spectacles. They have changed their spectacles from optimism to pragmatism. Your Armstrong Palme is a classic example for that. The People's Road, Armstrong Palme. So there are a lot of issues, and there are no issues about writing books and books on social issues of India. Now for us, we just need to understand certain aspects, write in exam and pass. That's it. That's our motto. Come on, let's get back to social issues. What are the consequences apart from your social stability, social capital, social dividend?
So again, the reason, I mean, policy implementation becomes difficult. because of
Okay.
social issues.
Okay, because of,
Circular in nature.
can I say societal ignorance? Or lack of societal awareness? Any other consequence of social issues? Think little more broad, because we need broader points with respect to social issues. Just one more point, equip yourself. You can state examples and finish off this answer in your exam. Suppose if there is a question on the consequences of existing social issues. So the structure of your answer will be, you introduce what is social issues.
What are the factors?
You introduce what are the social issues that are persisting now. You say what are the factors. Then you talk about consequences. Suppose if it is a 15 marker, this has to be for 3/4 page. This has to be for 1.5 page. And rest half page is your measures or solutions. One more point about the consequences of social issues. Forms a vicious cycle. It forms a vicious cycle. Right? So these are certain issues or the consequences of social issues. Now we'll see what are the measures when we are dealing with each of the social issue. Then once we see the measures of each of the social issue, then you can generalize and write the measures for this. Right? That thing cannot be done for the consequences of social issues, because you would see there are varied consequences of social issues and it becomes very difficult for you to generalize. That is the reason why I took so much time on these generalizations, right? Then the third aspect which you are supposed to understand with respect to the broader elements of Indian society, the concept of social justice. The concept of social justice. What is social justice? What is social justice? Don't you think it is a corollary term for your social empowerment? It's a corollary term for your social empowerment. And your social empowerment is basically availability, accessibility, affordability with respect to your PRO. PRO. Your social empowerment, availability, accessibility and affordability for your participation, for your resources, for your opportunities. Now, if these elements or the 3A approach for your participation, resources and opportunities is absent, then you call it as social exclusion. Yes. Social exclusion. Your social empowerment is a resultant of social inclusion, and the counter for your social inclusion is your social exclusion. Is this clear? Is this clear? Now, what is the relevance of social justice? What is the relevance of social justice?
DPSP.
One is the constitutional obligation. The constitutional obligation with respect to your Article 38 or your DPSP or your preamble. Yes. One is constitutional obligation. What is the second relevance of your social justice?
Existing problem in the society.
Existing social issues. Existing social issues. Now, when you talk about the existing social issues, it might be with respect to your poverty levels, it might be with respect to your literacy levels, it might be with respect to your health outcomes, or it might be with respect to levels of unemployment, it might be with respect to the levels of crime, it might be with respect to the degree of safety of women in the society, it might be with respect to the status and empowerment of child in the society. It is with respect to the levels of inclusion or degree of inclusion in the society. Yes. This is the second point for the relevance of social justice. What is the third point? What is the relevance of social justice? Apart from your constitutional mandate, apart from tackling your social issues, can I say it is for your inclusive growth? Can I say social justice basically ensures a conducive environment for your inclusive growth?
To reap the demographic benefits.
To reap the demographic benefit, to reap the social dividend, to reap the cultural dividend, to reap the diversity dividend. All these are basically possible if you ensure your social justice. And if all these are being ensured or all these are being reaped because of ensuring social justice, don't you think the next consequence of this is inclusive growth? Yes or no? That is the reason when you look at the perspective planning transition of India, or if you have to just broadly classify your planning, you can simply see in this way. When you look at your 5-year plans, there were certain plans up to which they basically emphasized on growth. Your first 3 5-year plans and then your 1966 to 69 policy holiday or plan holiday, it basically emphasized on growth of agriculture, growth of industries. Now, post which, that was basically on an emphasis of the concept of something called as trickle down. On whatever kinds of benefits that were reaped out of your growth, the corresponding benefits were not able to reach the marginal sections, were not able to reach the downtrodden sections, because there was no efficient kind of channel of trickle down that was happening. Now, because of the absence of this trickle down that was happening because of overemphasis on growth, in your 4th, 5th, 6th, they comes up with Garibi Hatao. Yes, they basically look at a developmental aspect. Your 5th 5-year plan, your 6th 5-year plan, your 7th 5-year plan, you would see that there is a lot of emphasis with respect to employment, there is a lot of emphasis with respect to social elements of the society. Now, when they have gone for this developmental connotation of your perspective planning from your 4th or 5th to 7th or 8th, then suddenly they found that this was being neglected. Suddenly they found that this was being neglected, or the growth element was being neglected, or the revenue side of the government was being neglected, but the expenditure side of the government was on boom. Now, in your 8th 5-year plan in this context, or your 9th 5-year plan in this context of declining growth or under emphasis of growth, your new economic policy 1991 comes in, where your LPG comes in. LPG comes in. Now, when your LPG comes in the context of declining growth as a consequence of the overemphasis on your development, then your LPG resulted in greater inequality. Greater inequality. Yes. Greater inequality. Now whole of your policy management was perplexed. They were perplexed that when we are emphasizing on development or when we are emphasizing on growth, the development was not happening. When I am emphasizing on development, the growth is not happening. Again, when I shift back my cycle of focus or cycle of emphasis on my growth, development is missing. That is your 9th and 10th 5-year plans or post year LPG, you would see that the Gini coefficient going up, your Lorentz curve bending towards the normal line, and the levels of inequality persisting in the society. Now, because of this, the policy management or the policy directives, they wanted to emphasize a combination of growth and development, which got manifested in the form of inclusive growth. Which got manifested in the form of inclusive growth. What was your 11th 5-year plan theme? Inclusive growth. Now, when you look at the inclusive growth concept, they laid foundation in your 10th 5-year plan, but it was realized in your 11th 5-year plan. But the issue with respect to inclusive growth in 11th 5-year plan was, right? So your relevance, your consequence, all are same. Now, when you suppose want to talk about the measures of ensuring your social justice, then simply use your constitutional measures, simply use your legislative measures or legal measures, use your administrative or institutional measures. Whatever kind of laws you ensure with respect to the protection of women, with respect to the protection of children, with respect to the protection of SCs, STs, or any kind of marginal section, be it disabled, that comes under your legal. Your constitution, basically your fundamental rights, part 3, part 4 and part 4A. Now your administrative or institutional, for example, your national transgender commission or body, or your NCSC, NCST, NCBC, NCPCR, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, National Commission for Women. So all these are kinds of institutional setup. Now all this, they are basically to ensure social justice. Now when you are able to ensure social justice through all these measures, then basically it results in social empowerment. Now when you are realizing the objective of social justice and when you are realizing the objective of social empowerment, it leads to inclusive society. It leads to inclusive society. And when you realize the objective of an inclusive society, then we can transcend to measuring of the welfare of the society in terms of happiness index. Okay. I think from past 3 years, I'm expecting a question with respect to these transitions. From past 3 years, but this year I think one form of it was asked in GS2. They asked, what is the necessary for us to transition from Human Development Index to Multidimensional Poverty Index? So I put this flowchart in that. Because I am expecting it from 3 years, I am waiting to use it somewhere, so I used it off. Yes? Right? So these are certain broader aspects of your social justice, social issues and social structure. Now the other broad aspect which we can deal is maybe poverty. Poverty will deal little later, tomorrow or day after. Because before poverty we need to deal with urbanization, we'll deal with secularism, we'll deal with globalization, we'll deal with regionalism, we'll deal with communalism. Right? Now I think we'll take a short break for 10 minutes. Then we'll assemble back at 11:30. Now I think the purpose of taking these broad elements is clear, because it is very difficult for you to crystallize 3 to 4 points at least in exam when it comes to these broad elements. I think you experienced it just now. So if you are ready with at least 3 to 4 points and general understanding, then you can manage. Okay.